I am just going to stop this. We're not playing all of the jingles because I couldn't get the jingle box running, so just let me do this and set our incoming music.
Well, I have a working hypothesis for
Good.
all of the
Because I
climate
believe...
change believers.
Yeah.
Because they believe that all of this is man-made.
It's a
Rather,
religion.
they're praying to a set of gods. And the reason they can't stop it is there are no more virgins to sacrifice.
I know a couple.
Yes, but they're not willing to go up to the rim of the volcano, right?
No, usually not. But
What do you need, dear?
I was looking for a cup.
Oh, well, here, have this. You may have that.
Oh, thank you.
You're welcome.
That's why I usually bring in my cup of tea, and usually by the third quarter it's empty already, damn it.
I have no idea what this is going to do.
How much
so
time do we have?
An hour and a half.
No, between the next
I'm about to start that right out.
Okay.
Why? What do you need? Okay.
I got a bunch of pieces from the news too, so you
All right. Well, let's,
I will interject at the most inopportune time.
good.
Okay.
That's the way it's meant to be.
yeah. And the only when things just to keep people from talking on each other, I'll tend to play traffic cop.
Okay.
So if I don't get your attention, raise your hand.
I'm good at that. I learned in school very well.
This would work. Yeah, that too. All right.
We are not amused.
All right. Let's come back in. Oh, the music has stopped. Guess what? We're back. We are GrokTALK, a production of GrokTALK.com, New Hampshire's leading conservative and libertarian blog site. We are glad that you've taken a bit of your time, whatever day and what hour that you are listening to our podcast. And glad to have you along. We are talking, well, we're going to switch gears. We were talking about Judeo-Christian values undergirding our social enterprise in the last segment. Basically a whole bunches of stuff. I'll recap that when I do the post later on, but we're going to move on now, and we're going to talk about other things. Last night I sat down and went through a bunch of posts, and I've got a bunch of questions to ask. So we're going to try to do a little bit of a roundtable here on some of these things. And
Oh, good. Just like the five? Or...
on the idea of the five, except we are the Fab Four.
Fab Four, I like that.
Yeah. So
My haircut's wrong.
But your accent's right.
yes. So I'll start off with an easy one here, and pulled this one from The Five on Fox News yesterday. Who kills more Americans, Smith & Wesson or Ben & Jerry's?
Ben & Jerry's.
Ben & Jerry's.
Ding, 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 ding.
Yes, but Ben and Jerry's taste good.
Like all evil going down.
Just sucked right in, right? Just sucked right in.
No, he is over here. Oh, this is cool.
Okay, now
Well,
now we have the five for your roundtable questions, Skip.
Yes, Jeff Chidester, one of our favoriteest guys here in New Hampshire, is joining us. And, of course, just to get a wry smile out of him, and maybe a little bit of a chuckle, how's your parking gone?
Oh, are you kidding me? That's the key to your guest booking, right? Just to let them know there's a big festival going on. I love festivals like this anyway, so, but my GPS brought me all the way back here and over here.
Yeah,
So.
I was rather surprised this morning, too. It did look like a war zone here. And I'm parked a couple of blocks up, and we all have stories about that I'm the stupid one for being so far away. So,
No, I'm not too far away. I'm right up the street.
yeah. So Jeff is a conservative activist, talk show host of New Hampshire Perspectives, MC or
To the
Master of Ceremonies
stars.
extraordinaire, And overall, nice, good guy. We appreciate you
Thanks.
coming in today.
You would say that, of course, but many people on the left don't have those same kind of ways of describing me.
Well, yeah, I should talk about one of my county commissions. Yeah.
It's the path. It's the path of good or the path of evil.
Yes, I'm on the list, and I've got the picture falling out of the manila envelope to prove it. But yeah, as one of the county commissioners, Democrat Ed Philpott of Belknap County said at the Democrat monthly meeting up in Belknap County, we're evil, So, but it's nice to hear you starting to say, I don't care what you think anymore, and I think most of us should say the same.
Right. Well, I think that one of the big keys, and you guys know this, as we're out and about in the community, people don't know we're conservative or liberal or whatever we do. All they can see is the actions in which we participate in. And I think what gets missed a lot is that they're not seeing us as part of the community and doing things within the community and doing simple things, even if it's working in soup kitchens, helping out any charity we can, the donations we give. And I think that's part of the problem with the rhetoric in America right now is this need to villainize certain members of their own community, and it's just unfortunate. That's not to say that I don't throw things back at them, but I'm very careful about how I do it. And the good thing is like most of you, I know the people who I'm talking to and how I'm talking about them. I know their history, so I know what degree of respect I can give them. Even if I disagree with them or not, if I disagree with them, or I also know, where I've gone, and some of you might have done this as well, is I won't appear on shows with certain people just because, one, I just don't find a lot of integrity coming from that individual person, and if I'm going to debate somebody, I would rather debate someone I may disagree with 100%, but there is some integrity in that person. And I think I think that's what we've started to do in the conservative movement is say, look, I'm not going to talk to you, and I am going to talk about the issues. So,
well, our first segment, we were talking about the underpinnings of our society, the underpinnings of conservative thought, which is Judeo-Christian theology and philosophy. And on that backstop, I come up with a whole list of questions on things of the day, and we just started in on the first one, and maybe we'll switch topics now that you're here. But I'll ask you the same question: who kills more Americans, Smith & Wesson or Ben & Jerry's?
Well, probably Ben & Jerry's. I mean, without a doubt. I mean, not probably. We know that to be true as well, and it is interesting how we end up having those conversations. You throw that out to somebody, and of course, if you throw it out to somebody who is very adamant about the Second Amendment and understands the Second Amendment, that they understand the purpose behind the question. If you throw it out to somebody who opposes the Second Amendment, how many blank stares do you get? You should go out on the street today with your great carnival going out here. You should go out on the street and ask that question, and I guarantee you a lot of them would look at you and wouldn't have the integrity to give you the right answer, because the right answer is Ben & Jerry's.
Of course, the corollary question, or the follow-on question is, how do you stand your ground with a pint of ice cream?
Yeah, well, there's something to be said about ice cream. I will give ice cream its potential defensive. I mean, who could say no to a really good chubby hubby ice cream? I mean, it could be a disarming tactic. I don't know if I necessarily want to try it, but I used to tell a joke when I was a policeman to try to calm people down and disarm them, and a lot of them never got the joke, and they would look at me, but it was the disarming technique. But like I said, I don't know if I want to necessarily try it.
Any other comments?
Wow.
I always prefer Baskin Robbins chocolate fudge ice cream myself, but anyways, Ben & Jerry's fit the question.
Where I come from, we have
oh, here we go with the Texas accent again.
An ice cream manufacturer called Bluebell.
Oh yeah,
you can only buy Bluebell ice cream in Texas. It was sort of like Coors beer back in the 60s and 70s that you had to go on the race to go
right.
get the beer and get it back to Oklahoma.
West of Texarkana.
Yeah. But Bluebell ice cream, I would take any flavor of Bluebell, particularly if I would do the fresh peach. I would take over Ben & Jerry's any day.
Oh yeah.
You just can't get it up here.
Okay.
It's wasted on Yankees, I suspect.
I think it's time for a cannonball run.
Bluebell ice cream. That would be really good.
Or with that slight, maybe just the cannonball.
There you go.
Rent a reefer. No, not that kind.
All right, here's another one. American jurisprudence at its finest. We all know that one of the biggest topics of the day is the city of Detroit. After decades of the blue social model governance, in other words, Democrats, it has finally run itself into the ground from a high of 2 million people to less than 600,000. Extraordinary means pricing itself out of the marketplace with overly high salaries, corruptions, and pensions. And finally, the Republican governor, Snyder, through his emergency manager, put them into federal bankruptcy, Chapter 9, which has upset the people who depended upon the government there to no end, because they see, I might be getting 10 cents on the dollar. Sort of like what we saw in Rhode Island this past fall and a little bit earlier, where the towns are just too broke. They can't pay the pensions. Several towns and cities in California are doing the same thing. So now a state judge says that the pension mess means that Detroit shouldn't file for bankruptcy due to the pensions it can't pay, as it hurts people. So we've got a city that's out of money, can't pay the pensions anyway. The state judge says, you can't do that because you're going to hurt too many people. They need the money that you don't have to give them in the first place. And plus, I saw last night as well, later on, that it dishonors Obama from bailing out the auto companies. So the question I have for
it's worse than that, and I know he's watching.
Yeah, because she sent her order handwritten to the White House. You know,
big old red lipstick on the back of it.
Right.
Yes.
But yeah, let me put a little more context in that, Skip. So actually, the city has been fighting a rearguard action for over a year against having a state-imposed administrator to try and sort out their finances. They finally accepted that administrator a few months ago because they really couldn't get their act together. And after he'd gone through all the books and tried to negotiate with the creditors, many of whom were said unions and their pension schemes, he finally concluded in writing, regretfully, that he could not square the circle. There wasn't enough money to meet even reduced obligations, and he had no choice but to file bankruptcy.
Well, I think, sadly, that judge may in fact be correct, because in the state constitution it prohibits the cancellation or forfeiture of those pensions. So the Michigan Constitution may in fact support this cuckoo judge. I'm not so concerned about dishonoring Obama, but if you write into your Constitution that you can't go broke, I understand the hypothesis, but I don't think it's going to work. So how do you deal with it?
The Constitution says that I'm entitled to float 2 feet off the ground, but I haven't ever seen it happen.
Indeed.
Yeah, well, it really is a case of where is this now going to fall? Even though we're talking about it, can the courts now force the feds to bail out Detroit? Now, Obama has tentatively said no. Should the California cities feel discriminated against if they do bail out Detroit? Now, you're hearing all about New York. Even though I was much younger, I said, I don't understand why the Fed should be bailing out New York City in the first place, other than if I say Cloudwood Piven, now you kind of understand
If
why.
you remember, too, you've got San Bernardino, Stockton have both filed for bankruptcy. You've got roughly about 14 major cities in America have filed for bankruptcy. If you remember last year, right before the election, one of the city councilors for Detroit said the reason why we need to vote for President Obama is we need the bailout. So they anticipate that money. I have a problem because, once again, and most of the people in this room probably believe the same way I do, is that this can be solved through a local effort. We're seeing some entrepreneurs in New York who are reclaiming some of the land and doing not only great techniques to resell farming products, but also putting that food back into the community And one of the problems we're having is dietary concerns within certainly plighted communities. And so they're being very entrepreneurial. Well, why are we not looking to the residents of Detroit who seem somewhat ready to start doing these things and are asking for no money?
Well, there was a marvelous post at a blog site called Notes from the Bunker.
Great.
Commander Zero suggested that perhaps the Free Staters got it wrong, not New Hampshire, but go to Detroit, because you can pick up all this property for nothing. You can take Ford Motor Company's old River Rouge plant and turn it into a gun manufacturing site, you know, and employ people and regen up the equipment, and maybe the Free Staters ought to go to Michigan.
No.
And I would agree with that. But this whole talk of going green actually sounds very nice. But no. Let me finish. The city of Detroit says we're going to tear down all the buildings and turn it into grass because then we don't have to maintain it.
Right, and I'm not talking turning green either. I'm talking about letting the citizens who are not asking for any money. I mean, there are quite a few rather large ones who are going right to the NBA team, or they're going right and say, look, this is what we're thinking. And they're not doing solar or anything like that, but they're basically one certain commerce good, pork, things like that are all skyrocketing. Detroit used to be a farming community. A lot of people don't realize that they were a farming community. So they're basically saying, well, why not? I mean, at this point. But the other thing is that what that does is it attracts the livable aspects. And you look at Portsmouth as an example in New Hampshire. The livable aspects of being around a community like that attracts businesses who then suddenly come in and say, look, all these extra things that you can do when you're not at work. So what they're hoping is that by bringing this kind of community sponsorship back, as long as we're not paying for it, that they're also hoping, and they're talking to Apple, they're talking to a few other, to say, look, come back in and see some of the things that we're trying to achieve.
Yeah, and then you can reemploy all the petty criminals, because now they have some place they can go and rob and make a living.
But that means that the people who are running the town, running the city, you look at the city council members, most of them have been behind bars too. So you can bring them back too.
There you go.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I mean,
like Mary and Barry.
The mayor was indicted. You also had, you know, I forget the congressman's wife who was indicted. So you have a congressman's wife who was indicted, and
Conyers,
right, has pled out, and
Kwame Kilpatrick, of course.
Yeah, I mean, it's corruption. We shouldn't be surprised by it. But the thing is that the federal government should have nothing to do with this. I think Snyder has the right approach. And frankly, this is one of those line in the sand moments that we talk about, where the governor should say, okay, my state judge, you just don't like my decision here. Can we go ahead and shut that budget off, please? And lock the doors. The governor has a power here that governors don't exercise. And the judiciary has overstepped its authority in so many cases that they should basically go back. And the governor should call that judge into his office and say, you ever dare have a direct communication with the President of the United States without first going through your elected state officials, then we will go forward with impeachment. You will answer to the people of Michigan, not to the people in the Dome in D.C., and that's the problem. The Dome in D.C. is chaos.
And state-appointed judges actually serve at the pleasure of the state governor and legislature.
It depends on what state.
I'm not sure if this one's elected, because some are elected, some are... But you know, the thing is, the little tricks that they play with the Constitution, the little tricks that they play, they fail to realize that there's one big trick that the states have. Their budget is derived from other than themselves. And that budget can be suspended at any time.
And that's where I was going.
I'm a mean guy.
Yeah, that's actually where I was going, is that the legislatures have the power to create courts and circuits and to dismantle them and start over. And so if, for example, we're tired of the Ninth Circus, Congress can vote it out of existence, that's California, of course, and recreate it.
Yeah. But, you know, but I think is that when you look at Detroit, I think it's been the biggest story of the week. Although some of the media have decided to go with a different story, this has been the biggest story. It's one of our top 10 cities. I mean, it has but it has 4 professional sports teams, which is a mark of a bigger city in our country. It used to be the jewel of not only the auto industry, but the financing industry. Many of the insurance companies and financial institutions were there as well. And I don't want to see Detroit fail, and I'm not trying to be mean about this, but the reality is that they can work their way out of it. And Snyder does have a plan. Snyder doesn't want to see them fail. But he also has basically said, federal government, you have nothing to do with this, and you better listen to me because it's going to get worse.
Well, and there's some beautiful quotes out there too. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah.
I think you actually hit it on the head because, whenever we blog about stuff, or at least for the main part, we all do this and we all talk about this. But we look at current events through our philosophy. We all have basic principles that we say, these should be here. Yeah, we can be pragmatic about it, and I hate using that because progressives are trying to take that over because, they've already ruined liberal. Now they're killing off progressive again, so now they're trying to call themselves pragmaticists. But
they're neo-progressives. I use the term neo-progressive.
Pragmatism was the means to the end of communism, and the term's been in use by then for over a century.
Yeah, but you hit it on the head. The problem is, you can talk about the entrepreneurs, but if you can't get rid of the governance that was there, the large Democrat-type machine that basically has taken patronage to new heights beyond what Tammany Hall ever thought of.
Well, they've turned it into thugocracy.
A thugocracy, because that's what happens when you have a mobocracy. When you go to pure democracy, just like our founders talked about, this is what you get. Absolute power corrupts absolutely. You see that all the time. We, on the other hand, you're talking about entrepreneurs and the civil society that has been pushed out of Detroit because government has crowded everything else out. And we're seeing that, and you mentioned that in your discussion on that you see the federal government doing the same thing, that it is crowding out what we used to call civil society. And that's where we get into trouble. We are evil because we think that we can do it on our own. That we as individuals, or as individuals voluntarily banding together to get something done, don't need government. And to Democrats, to statists, to people who believe that government has to be in every part of their lives to be successful, they look at us as literally, if it was a religion, we would be, we are heretics. And the problem is, they won't leave us alone. They won't go, well, you can have New Hampshire, we'll take Michigan, and yada, yada, yada. They have to force all of us to become government worshippers.
Right, they're like Italian race car drivers. What's behind them doesn't matter. And what I mean by that is you look at the failed policies all the way through. But the other thing is, and we do this, and the thing is that what liberals fail to realize, and many of the conservatives listening to this, is that conservatives are not do not rush into failure like liberals do. We're very cautious about what we want to do, and we believe in this progression of first, let's talk about it at the kitchen table. If the problem can't be solved at the kitchen table, we then expand it to our neighbors. And there's a methodology in that, because what it does is it makes sure it hits the point correctly, and then it also keeps it into the confines that you can manage. I always talk, and when I went down to Washington, D.C., I've talked at CPAC, and when I talk to people, and we talk about the difference between private and government, I always remind them of the New Hampshire Food Bank. And I talk about the New Hampshire Food Bank, and let me tell you why. Every Friday afternoon, at the end of the school day, a bunch of kids who live in families that are having difficulty feeding themselves receive a little backpack. And in that little backpack is the food that family needs for the weekend. Now, these are people many who have lost their jobs. We've seen how bad the economy is. And at Monday, when that kid comes back, they hand that backpack back. Done without government involvement and done at 99% efficiency, meaning that 99 cents of every dollar that you give is going to this kind of efficiency. And once again, we fail to realize that if we look at these kind of programs, it doesn't have to be the New Hampshire Food Bank, it doesn't have to be, but if we look at these kind of efficiencies that the liberals want to ignore, they don't want to be involved with them because they are coming from Protestants, Catholics, Jewish community members who are funding this. They don't want to look at them as the solution because God forbid we would have religion help us out. But once again, it brings in the bigger narrative is that
that's an oxymoron, isn't it? God forbid we would have religion.
What I'm saying, but what I'm saying is that you look at Detroit, and I know that there's answers in there. I don't want to give people something for nothing, and I do want people to strive for their success. But once again, we fail to realize that there are these successful private programs out there, these nonprofit programs, that the liberals will never look at because the ideology of those particular organizations are not theirs.
Chart. So the chart shows population and manufacturing jobs in Detroit then and now.
Oh, Lord.
So the population may have shrunk to about 600,000, but the number of actual private sector manufacturing jobs are down to about 30,000. And, you know, so basically the jobs in the city are government and crime, which is why living there is so difficult.
They apparently pay well.
It sounds like an Italian family. You'll be the priest, you'll be the gangster, you'll be the cop.
and while we're trying to attract private saviors to Detroit, let's just hope they don't watch Steven Crowder's videos.
Oh my.
Steven is doing wonderful work.
Didn't he just decimate the place?
But, you know, this is a problem that can happen. You know, I find it, not ironic is not the right word. Alanis Morissette always screws it up. I'm not going to do that. I find it so comical when those in the federal government say, Detroit, $18 billion, you really screwed up. We need to help you. Let us give you some ideas. And I'm thinking to myself, are you serious?
Really?
You're $18 trillion in the hole of the number that we want to give. You have been so inefficient in your methodology. You're really going to give advice to Detroit, and we know what that advice will be. And sadly,
well, I know
sadly, they're a heroin dealer.
Yeah,
basically, and they just give them another hit.
And the top heroin dealer who's not been impeached, of course, is Ben Bernanke.
Indeed.
But let's.
I think he's mainlining meth, actually.
I got one quick quote because I think Skip's indicating end of segment coming up. Kevin Williams did a wonderful piece about the fall of Detroit in National Review Online yesterday, and I'll just give you two pithiest comments. Basically, a city that already was corrupt and incompetent saw its tax base evaporate, meaning that it quickly became a city that is corrupt, incompetent, and broke.
Yeah.
And his closing line was, Detroit's ruling class, there's those words again, is a parasite that has outgrown its host. Isn't that a visual?
Well, isn't that what's happening in D.C.? You know, as you become lawless in the small things, you become lawless in the big things, and we're seeing that, you know, from our erstwhile constitutional law scholar president, in that in everything he seems to touch. You know, I often have that joke of, you know, there are some days where I have the Midas touch. You know, a lot of people start to think of the mythology of everything turns to gold. No, mine turns to rust. And I see that we're doing that because we're promoting. Again, it all comes down to philosophy, as we were talking about with Father Christian, who's been very silent this time. You've got to speak up, sir. This is a free for all.
I am listening to the wisdom of my elders. That's.
Oh, please!
Oh,
how you like that?
We have just been jabbed.
Right. I'm going to follow that parasite comment with
wisdom of our elders.
No, I got one more line to put in about about the parasite outgrowing its host, and what a bad visual that is. You know, they say that politics is many bloodsuckers. Well, that's about what Detroit has made has got for us.
Politics. I like it.
Yes.
I like it.
You know, I had something that I was going to close out the segment with, and now I've been distracted. Squirrels!
Squirrels, yeah, that happens.
Oh, I remember what it is as the music gets ready to play for the end of the segment. You were talking about the food bank and the backpacks. And one of the things I read in the Nashua Telegraph was something about the school lunch program proceeding through the summer. And at the very end, one of the mothers was saying, well, this is great. They get free stuff. This is far better than me taking them to McDonald's and spending $30. So here we go back to the parasites. And what is the moral hazard of providing for everybody, especially for those who may not need to have it? And again, we come to the efficiency that you were talking about, sir.
Right.
Private organizations wouldn't allow that to happen. Because we know who these people are. The federales don't.
Imagine it was a private school, and they said, sure, we can do you school lunch. The fee for the summer session will be...
Yep. All right, folks. It is time for us to take another break, and we will be back in just a couple of minutes.
Sorry, there's just too much stuff out there.
Oh my.
Isn't this fun?
Oh my. Kinder, gentler people.
Well,
There was no kickback about you there. I just wanted to get that thing about the many bloodsuckers in over Detroit.
Where'd my son go?
Is he around?
seen him come in.
we didn't see him come
He
in.
didn't
What?
come in at all.
I was like,
Is he hanging out?
How old is he?
he's 18.
Oh, okay. Oh my gosh.
I'm sorry, bring my chair up.
I work,
Grab a chair.
I work with orphans, and he says,
didn't mean
"Where's
to,
my
just-
son?" I went, "Oh my god."
No, yeah.
We're not that religious about silence in the
You
studio.
guys are gonna have to search for missing children. Someone get a milk
Well,
carton.
hubby's out there wandering somewhere.
Where is he? Well, he's probably enjoying the festival. Who knows what he's going to end up with?
Well, he saw a solar panel that he quite likes. He's building a whole solar generating system. So,
All right, let me just get my in music because my jingle box isn't working. Let's see.
jingle box, jingle box.
That's what I was thinking.
Jingle all the way.
Yeah, I need an in. I wish I had Steve's Rhino radio over here.
Where's
Yeah.
Steve? Where's everybody?
Steve is in the process of getting his front tooth fixed.
Okay.
So he's, as I said before, he's enjoying the results of a robust pharmaceutical industry right now. All right, we'll try this one.
I have a couple of quotes by Dershowitz about Angela Corey.
Okay, we'll do that. And I've got more questions. I can't believe we only got through 2 questions. So,
Well, because you invited me. That's what you did.
all right, folks, are we ready?
We have a surfeit of words here.
I wonder if someone could go and get us some donuts.
More donuts.
My wallet's right over here.
I don't know where is the donut place from here?
I have
There's
no
bread and
idea.
chocolate down the road. I don't know if they're open today. And then right up here, there's Bagel Works. No, hand me my wallet, would you please, Father? This can be my treat.
Why? I do
Because you had to haul all the gear.
Oh, please.
all over here, and he's got cash too.
I do too.
I wouldn't carry cash. Matt, would you go get us a variety of
And
donuts?
pick something out nice
And
for
so
yourself.
where is it? So we go down.
Downstairs, take a right. Bagel Works is,
Bagel
I think, at the
Works.
corner.
Okay. Big works.
And-
Yeah, Skip only lives on Mountain Dew.
Water
I'll take a water or anything
Yeah.
simple.
Have you got enough, Matt?
It's 20. Do you need more?
Here,
I have no clue.
Here.
Okay,
pass it down.
bring back the change.
We'll give it to Skip.
Uh-oh.
Oh, please.
Conservatives all reach for their wallets.
You don't send 18-year-olds out with money.
No, Matt's a
This
good
one?
kid.
That, yeah, oh, yeah. All right, we ready to go again?
Sure.
You betcha. Thinking
I
of
need more
third
volume,
parties.
I think I'm stuffed up.
You need more volume?
Yeah, I can hear you guys fine. I don't even know if I.
What am I
More
doing
volume.
wrong?
He would be number 5.
Well, hang on. We don't have them turned up yet, do we?
No, nothing's up
Nothing's
yet.
on
Yeah,
anyway.
I'm losing my hearing completely.
Okay,
Which is not good.
here we go.
GrokTV.